Willkommen, bienvenue, oh my god, hey, welcome back to my Stagey YouTube channel. If you're seeing my face for the first time, my name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre. And this is my Stagey YouTube channel where I review shows I've been invited to go and see over here in the UK, and I talk about theatrical news and drama and interesting things happening worldwide. If those kind of videos seem like the kind of thing that you could vibe with on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming content. Today, I am once again going to be taking you spiritually into the Kit Kat Club in London. Not physically, because I am very much not allowed to. Believe me, I have asked. But I'm going to be telling you all about the second cast of this phenomenal revival. So Rebecca Frecknell's bold and immersive new staging of Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club in London, formerly known as the Playhouse Theatre, has been both critically and commercially a phenomenal success. Where a lot of other shows in the West End are struggling to draw in audiences, Cabaret is maintaining this sort of elusive, highly sought after, sold out quality night after night. A lot of this energy was kick-started by the initial casting of Eddie Redmayne and Jessie Buckley in the lead roles, for which they both went on to win Olivier Awards. But not only that, the original supporting cast members, Lisa Sadovi and Elliot Levy, both won Oliviers for their performances as well. It was a clean sweep of the acting categories at this year's Olivier Awards, which is a very rare circumstance and speaks to the quality of these performances. I saw that cast twice, I can confirm they were outstanding. But like everything in life, theatre and particular casts are only temporary, and the time had to come in April for a new cast to take over. Led by Fra Fee and Amy Lennox, there are a new set of principals performing Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club, and today I'm going to tell you all about them. Now, I appreciate this video is coming quite late in the day, really late into their run, because they actually finish very, very soon, and there are some new performers set to take over. And I was meant to be filming this video a while ago because I was meant to be attending the gala night of the new cast back in April when they started. However, I got COVID. So obviously I couldn't go. Literally one of the worst times it could ever have happened to me. And it was in the middle of the Easter holidays. I missed not a single day of work, but Cabaret gone. However, I have subsequently seen this cast twice, including very recently from a Cabaret table for my birthday. That was a magical experience. And so I am going to tell you a little bit about how their performances vary from their predecessors. As I said, some of these cast members are soon to be leaving the show, some of them are staying with the production, so this is not necessarily an encouragement for you to go and see them and get tickets. This is more for the people who will not have access to this show, who are maybe fans of these performers and were curious as to how they were in these roles. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight and you can enjoy it somewhat vicariously through this description, even if you didn't get the chance to see them in person. So let's talk about Fra Fee as the new MC. Now, when this revival of Cabaret was announced, it was very much on the back of Eddie Redmayne's celebrity status, and this was a big draw for people booking their tickets. In fact, Eddie was central to the composition of the revival in the first place. He gave an interview where he said that he had approved Jessie Buckley's casting as Sally Bowles, and he even joked at the Oliviers that he had cast himself in the role. Now, while Fra Fee may not be a movie star like Redmayne, he has appeared on both stage and screen. He is known for being in the film version of Les Mis. Recently, he had a role in the Marvel series Hawkeye on Disney+, and he's appeared in numerous stage productions here in the UK. Straight off the bat, his MC is definitely different to Redmayne's. He has less of the immediate physicality. So much of what Eddie Redmayne did was in his posture. He had this kind of sort of like hunched goblin-like quality as his MC at various moments throughout the show, and when he then varied that to play a sort of different version of that character later in the show, if you know what happens with the costuming and with wig changes and with the sort of change in mood and sensibility throughout the production, you'll know what I'm talking about. He varied that posture, and then by being able to slip back into it, you could tell that he was back into his old MC character. So the variety of those was sharper and more differentiated in Eddie Redmayne's performance. Fra does not do that with his physicality as such and with his body language. He does it more with his intention, with his facial expressions, with his vocal delivery. There is definitely a shift towards the menacing and towards the more sinister that he conveys more strongly through his eyes and through his vocalization. There was also this weariness about Eddie Redmayne that I don't get from Fra. He seems younger. He definitely reads as a younger version of that character. We don't get a tremendous amount of insight into the MC as a human individual. He's sort of more of a self-insert concept in this production, where he was fleshed out more as a person in Sam Mendes' production, Rufus Norris's production. That is not what Rebecca Frecknell does here. Fra is definitely more boyish. He's younger than Redmayne, so that makes sense. He's more of like a playful imp rather than Eddie Redmayne's sort of sinister goblin type. I don't know why I'm using these fantasy parallels, but again, if you've seen the performances, it does make sense. One costuming difference between Eddie Redmayne and Fra Fee is that Eddie Redmayne was actually in his underwear, I think, or showed more flesh during the Two Ladies number. And for Fra, they've given him this nude illusion onesie in a flesh tone that they've added like little bits of like chest hair and like a fig leaf to make it like this comedy nude illusion moment. So interesting that they made that choice and they wanted to swap between the two. I'm not entirely sure why. My only theory about this is that Fra does have a discernibly more athletic physique than Eddie Redmayne, and whether they didn't want the show of flesh in that number to become about that. He also has tattoos, but they make no attempt to cover up other tattoos that are on show, so I don't figure that that matters hugely. But if anyone was hoping to go and see his performance for that reason, you may be disappointed. Now, Fra has more of a background as a singer than Eddie Redmayne, and where this really pays off is in the number I Don't Care Much. Not only is it sung very beautifully, crooned very well, but the acting through song is incredibly powerful, and he is terrifying and chilling in this moment, and it's far more intense than I ever remember Eddie Redmayne delivering this part of the song. He had a little bit of bite to it, but he was colder with that bite, whereas Fra Fee sort of boils with rage for a tiny moment of this song, and it's really the most powerful moment of his performance in the show, I think. Opposite him is his former co-star and friend Amy Lennox. Now, the rumours swirling at the time of their casting were that they had been trying to solicit some other stars for this role, and negotiations had fallen through, and they were left in the lurch at the last minute, needing a Sally Bowles, prompting Fra Fee to recommend his friend and very talented former co-star, Amy Lennox. The two of them had starred in the last 5 years together previously. They have a great working relationship. And you can absolutely tell that from their chemistry on stage. They don't get to interact all that much, but in the few moments that they do, it's very, very powerful. So Amy is taking over from Jessie Buckley, obviously an Olivier Award winner for the role of Sally Bowles, and it's a monumental role to begin with. I mean, you have Liza, you have Judi Dench, you have Natasha Richardson, you have all of the recent phenomenal actresses who have played the role on Broadway, Michelle Williams and Emma Stone and Sienna Miller. Like, so many people have played Sally Bowles to tremendous acclaim. It is one of the great musical theatre roles for a very strong actress. And Amy was really fascinating casting in this, because for a long time, I have known her as this fantastic comedic supporting actress. I saw her in shows like Soho Cinders and on tour with Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, where she played Dora Lee, the Dolly Parton character. So very much the belty comedy supporting actress. Sally Bowles is a world away from that, and this just goes to show her versatility as a performer. Now, in the intervening years, she has been seen on television in Holby City, and this does kind of seem to be in step with what the Cabaret producers and creatives are trying to do with this lead casting. You know, you had Jessie Buckley and Eddie Redmayne, who have both performed on stage, but were also known for their film careers. In the second cast, you have Amy and Fra, seasoned stage performers, veteran stage performers, but also known through television. It's a sensible choice, and it's a choice I understand when you are trying to deliver this luxury theatrical experience. Amy is not too dissimilar from Jessie Buckley, but there are a few differences. I will say she definitely also reads that little bit younger, but somehow also has less naivety. I think Jessie Buckley laughed off a lot more things as her Sally Bowles. She was so detached from reality and so immersed in her own hedonistic understanding of what was going on around her. Amy sort of plays it, very interestingly, as more knowing of everything that's happening, but disregarding it. It seems like more of a conscious choice to separate herself from the growing political unrest. That's particularly clear in her final scenes as Sally Bowles, which are incredible. Now, Amy is obviously also coming to this role as a very established vocalist. She does not sing it much more than Jessie sang the role. By that I mean there are a lot of songs that Sally has throughout the show, but they are not particularly oversung. They are mostly delivered and exclaimed more than beautifully sung, which is the direction, which is what Rebecca Frecknell has gone for here. And that has very much been a choice that's been associated with this character since the Sam Mendes production. She is not this elegant, accomplished chanteuse. She is a girl who has somehow washed up in this seedy bar in Berlin and is making it work for her. She's far more charismatic than she is talented. Weird little thing that probably nobody else cares about but me, but I'm sure they've done something with Amy Lennox's eyebrows in between me seeing her for the first time a few months ago and more recently in September. Like, she seemed to have actually blocked out her eyebrows like a drag queen and penciled on some other eyebrows. I'm not convinced that that hasn't been the case the whole time because I was sat further back the first time I saw her, but I only just noticed it on this second viewing. Again, doesn't really matter to anyone else but me, but I find those kinds of things interesting. There is so much meaning and so much careful planning behind all of the aesthetic and costuming decisions in this production that I am sure that had to be with something in mind. The one moment where she gets a chance to really sing is maybe this time. It's lovely, it's beautifully delivered, and if you've seen the Olivier Awards that were shown on television, you will have already seen her performance of Cabaret, the title song. Now, Jessie Buckley delivering this was one of my theatrical highlights of the last year, if not the greatest moment that I spent in a theatre in the entirety of the last year. And Amy's rendition certainly does not disappoint. It absolutely lives up to that version, while still being very different. And again, similarly with Fra, it is less about the physicality for Amy. So towards the end of this number, Jessie was performing and throwing herself around like a puppet on a string. It very much seemed like she was doing these involuntary spasms and throwing her arms around. Amy is giving you less of that, but ferocity in the face and snarling through that vocal delivery. She is screaming her way through the end of that number. It's an incredibly visceral performance. She is bearing her soul. It is raw, it is honest, it is heartbreaking. It's everything that you need in that moment of the show, but physically a lot more restrained. Now, let's not forget Omar Baroud, who has been playing Clifford Bradshaw. Now, Cliff is a very difficult character to get right, and in this revival specifically, I have yet to really thoroughly enjoy any of the performances I've seen of any of the actors playing Cliff. And I just feel like it's because he is not given the same type of leading status. He is not really framed as the protagonist in this version of the show. He is more like a lens through which we as the audience see everything else. He's kind of a self-insert protagonist in that sense. But there are moments for him and songs for him in previous productions that have not been included in this one. The way that it talks about his sexuality is a little bit altered in this one. He does seem kind of sidelined a little bit as a character. The two times I saw Omar, his performance differed quite a lot, and by the second time I saw him, it was a lot more sedate and a lot more low-key, and he was just incredibly relaxed with everything that was happening until he wasn't. But everything was sort of delivered in this low-energy murmur. If you're at drama school playing that game where you have to perform to different energy levels depending on a number, then his whole performance was kind of at a 4. And there are bits of that where it felt very naturalistic and very soft and very believably romantic and subdued. And you bought him as this kind of fantasist, which is important in the first act of the show because you need to believe that he is also able to be oblivious to everything that's beginning to happen around him, even though he is a lot more politically switched on than Sally. I mean, he's been reading Mein Kampf, for crying out loud. But there comes the moment in the second act where he needs to wake up and where something needs to change in his character. And I'm not sure I was convinced that it worked, that he kept with this softness, but just played it kind of grumpily. Especially because, though you can interpret it however you want as an actor, with this direction there are bits of staging you need to hit, and there is a moment of passion and near violence towards the end of the show, and he needs to bubble up to that. And it's all very well to just kind of immediately rise to rage in that scene, but it would be more effective if it had been foreshadowed through his previous interactions with Sally. If we saw him getting more and more frustrated and establishing this tension, then it wouldn't come as such a shock to us that that happens. And it should be shocking to a certain extent, but it shouldn't seem completely out of character. Now, the show has had a couple of new performers as well. I am going to talk about them hopefully when I go and see the next new cast, so I can give you a full rundown of everyone appearing in the show at that time. But I do want to shout out some of the other cast members that I've mentioned previously who opened the show, who are also going to be leaving it in October. And Anna Jane Casey has been doing a tremendous job as Fraulein Kost / Fritzi, one of the Kit Kat dancers. I mean, this track was created for her skill set. Who else in the world could play Fraulein Kost this well and understudy Fraulein Schneider and be a Kit Kat Club dancer? Like, Anna Jane Casey is such an insane talent, so age-defyingly flexible, it is ridiculous. But also her Kost scenes are so good. I do think she should have been recognised with an Olivier nomination. It's phenomenal what she does in this show, and in many ways it is the spirit of the show. I'm hoping that whatever she is going on to after this is a phenomenal role for her, because she is such a talent and absolutely deserves recognition. And I'm also very devastated I never got to see her Fraulein Schneider, because I'm sure that would have been fascinating, because the energy with which she performs everything and the vitality to see her get to play an older character would have been really very interesting and very out of character for everything that she's previously done. Also leaving the show will be Stuart Clark as Ernst Ludwig, one of my favourite performers in everything I've ever seen him in. Stuart has been fantastic in this role. I've seen him a handful of times now, and he is one where you feel the bubbling tension underneath, and it does feel foreshadowed, and when it becomes more sinister, it arrives right on time and it's just perfectly pitched. But what he's also been doing is finding more ways to inject a levity and a comedy into his early scenes, which is clever because it then just puts us off guard to a certain extent for when the reveal happens. If you don't know who that character is going to become, then it sets you up for a stronger gut punch when that moment eventually arrives. And that's the brilliance of Stuart Clark, that he can be so sinister and full of such aggressive masculine energy, but then can also be funny in such a goofy way, and that serves him very well as a performer to be able to play that kind of duality. So those are my thoughts on the outgoing principals from the Kit Kat Club. I have loved their performances. I've enjoyed the show every single time I've been to see it. If you can find a way to get tickets, I cannot recommend this revival enough. I went to see it on my birthday, which is a privilege that I reserve for what I consider to be the best show in town, and right now Cabaret is that. I am so excited to see the new leads that will be opening the show from October. I will definitely be back, and I'll be sure to make another video letting you know all about their performances. So stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed to my channel if you aren't already. If not, why not? How long have we been here? Come on, press the button. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to give me a super thanks down below, or you can go to patreon.com/Mickey Joe Theatre, where you can subscribe to that and gain access to some exclusive photo and video content. Either of those really help me as a stagey content creator. If you have seen this cast of Cabaret, let us know in the comments section down below what you thought, especially if you also saw the previous cast. What are your thoughts on some of the little changes to the show and how their performances have varied the trajectories of these characters? Let's have a conversation about it. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey, thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!